Inclusion and diversity is of the utmost importance at Humana. And joining me to tell us more is Christopher Johnson. Thank you so much for talking with me today.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Absolutely. Now, Chris, first of all, can you tell us a bit about your role at Humana?
Well, I think it's important to take a step back and talk a little bit about how Humana thinks about inclusion and diversity more broadly. At Humana, we've got a commitment to the long-term health and well-being of the members that we serve, of the customers that we serve. And one of the biggest pieces of that is our associate population. We are committed to ensuring that every associate has the opportunity to bring their whole self to work so that they can do their best self. And so part of my role is to help urge the organization forward in terms of creating an environment where every associate feels as though they belong, as though they matter, as though they're a valuable piece of the progress that Humana makes generally. And so, my role sits at the nexus of all of that. I get the opportunity to dig in every day and help the organization to move forward in these efforts. Working with so many partners across the company. Partners like our partners in corporate communication and talent management, talent communications, and the like. I think about our executive I&D council, our local I&D councils as well, and the leaders of our network resource groups, our culture and engagement teams. There are so many people that help us move this ball forward. I just get the opportunity every day to play a small part in it.
That is fantastic. And of course, February celebrates Black History Month. What does this month mean to you and at Humana?
Well, for me personally, it's an opportunity for me to take a step back, and to reflect on the giants on whose shoulders I stand. The achievements of so many Black Americans throughout the history of this country. It's an opportunity for me to really recommit to the work that must be done to honor their legacy and to move our nation forward and to move our company forward in a more micro sense. But for us at Humana, it's an opportunity for us to acknowledge the amazing accomplishments of so many Black Americans throughout our country's history. I'm really proud of the work of our network resource groups, and specifically Impact, our African American network resource group, and the work they're doing to help, to educate the enterprise on some of these accomplishments of so many Black Americans. They're doing it through some weekly notifications and emails to our associate population. But not only that, we are educating the company about the accomplishments and the stories, not just of those Americans whose names we may know and have heard of, but also the stories of associates inside our company, connecting their stories of excellence to the larger story of Black excellence throughout the history of this company, throughout the history of this country, I should say. And so it's an exciting time for us. We're committing to not just to those pieces, but also to more strategic and more structural initiatives around a metrics-driven approach to cultural competence. That is this notion of understanding and learning more about those people and cultures that are different from us, and really taking the opportunity to not just learn more, but to dig into what that means to be a better teammate for all of us inside Humana, and how that connects to the service to our members as well. And so this is a commitment not just for the month of February for us. It's an opportunity for us not just to acknowledge the great contributions of African Americans in this month, but it's also an opportunity for us to commit in a structural and strategic way to the work that we have to do every single day of the year.
That is so great. And can you share more about what Humana is doing here in Louisville to help improve the health and well-being of the community?
So, Humana has been a part of the city of Louisville in some way for, 60 years or so. And we have been committed to making sure that, the Humana members in the Louisville community, as well as those people that we have the opportunity to serve all across the country, that they have the opportunity to live, to be their best selves, and to live in a way that honors their history and honors their legacy, and allows them to be the healthiest, best versions of themselves. And so, with all that we've seen play out over the course of the last year or so in the streets of Louisville and all across the country, really, we thought it was important to make a commitment. And we've done that in a number of ways. I would say this, that Humana and Humana Foundation have committed more than $23 million to rebuilding our city, to increasing health equity in the city of Louisville, to embracing this notion of moving the city forward and advancing Louisville in terms of making it more equitable, more inclusive, more diverse for everybody that lives here. So I think about all the partnerships that are involved there, and all of our partners across the city that are helping us do that. Folks like the Louisville Urban League, and our commitment to the Norton Health the Norton Sports and Learning Complex. I think about the really cool partnership that we have with Evolve 502 that's going to make 2 years of tuition-free post-secondary education available to JCPS graduates. I think about this more than 600,000 pieces of personal protective equipment and masks and the commitment to ongoing COVID-19 testing. And so, we're going to continue our efforts to build partnerships in the city around health equity, around rebuilding the city of Louisville. We're partnering with local governments, local communities, nonprofit organizations, educational institutions, all towards building a safer, a more prosperous, a healthier, a more equitable, a more just, and a more united Louisville.
That is fantastic. And what commitments has Humana made to further inclusion and diversity in the workforce?
So we've made a number of commitments over the last several years to advance inclusion and diversity here at Humana. Several years ago, our CEO, Bruce Broussard, was one of the first CEOs in the country to sign what's called the CEO Action Pledge for Diversity and Inclusion. And among other things, it commits us, as well as the now several hundred other CEOs that have signed this pledge, to some really intentional steps around inclusion and diversity and advancing it for the employees and associates that are part of the company, that are members of the companies that are part of this pledge. We've also become a part of here recently what's called the 110 initiative. It's an effort amongst we're one of the founding members of this initiative, and it's a coalition of some of the leading names in corporate America coming together to upskill, to hire, to advance 1 million Black Americans over the course of the next 10 years into jobs that are going to ultimately, hopefully, lead to family-sustaining jobs and opportunities for career advancement and growth and development. So we're really, really proud of that and all the efforts that we've made in the last couple of years to advance these efforts around inclusion and diversity. It's a core principle of ours. It's at the very core of what we do. And so we're excited to be a part of just a few of these efforts.
Absolutely. Christopher, thank you so much for talking with me today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.